Am I explaining the video?
I'll explain it. Well, this is going to be the first one, so let me explain it.
I bet.
Welcome everybody. We're gonna be huh?
Are you sure you don't need me to explain it?
Huh?
Exactly. So, in case you don't speak that language, we're lore dumping on each other and seeing who could absorb it better.
Okay, so yeah, basically what we're gonna do. This is gonna be a two-parter. Nick is gonna try and explain to me how the SCP lore works, and I'm gonna try and explain how the Destiny one works. And after each presentation, we're gonna take a test to see if we absorb the information or not. Um, right now we're just gonna go through and see Nick's SCP presentation, and next episode will be my one on Destiny 2. If you like this content, please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that comment and section in below section, and hit that bell on the icon button and subscribe thingy. Anything else, Nick?
Nailed it. Nailed it. You did it perfectly.
Thank you.
I can't trace. Oh my god.
Okay, this is all on you now.
Okay. So this is really just going to be how it functions, because if I were to drop the... I think that's how Matt did it too, because if we were to drop the whole thing, oh my god, we'd be here for hours. So we're just kind of like dropping the basics, giving examples. So here we go. Um, the concept is just that it's an online form with a ton of documents on it, as if it's a real thing. There's a little warning on it, a little content warning to start it up. That's like, oh, this is classified information. You can't fucking look at it. But it's all fiction. It goes through like a moderation process, so you can't just submit whatever the fuck you want. But pretty much a lot of the information is contradictory. So headcanoning is actually very much um like accepted in this community. For once, out of like a lot of communities, is like fucking frowned upon because it's like a created thing by professional authors. But since it's a community project, you're allowed to pretty much just believe whatever you want, and people will universally agree upon some things and like talk about lore accuracy and be sticklers. But the point is that some of this shit directly contradicts each other. So if you took like every SCP story and document, put it together, it wouldn't make sense. So the point is to take your favorites. I mean, some of the drama around it would be like the redesigning of 173, because it's the person who made the picture of the statue didn't want to be associated, so they redesigned it very recently. And then little cornball content, I don't really take a problem with it, but a lot of people in the community are like, "Oh my god, why is this infographic show channel and like things of the like making such goober I don't care. I mean, like, but that is a thing people give a fuck about for some reason. So basically, how it works is they contain these little anomalies, so they can't be explained by science. Um, they're kind of like they don't make sense no matter what. Now they could do some like crazy fuck shit, and they could be items, they could be beings, entities, like entire plagues.
So they could be basically just anything.
Yeah, there's one that's a mask. There's one that's
So,
indigo head. There's one that's like a weeping angel.
so they can be anything and do anything.
Pretty much in the scopes, in the grand scopes. Again, it goes through a moderation machine. So like, or well, not a moderation machine, but a moderation system. There are people there, so you can't just like, let's say SCP-682, which I'll dive into later. Pretty much the whole point is that like no one's gonna be able to destroy him realistically, and that's a problem because he's a threat. So if you just made SCP 1 trillion, the sword that instantly kills 682, like that doesn't make it onto the board.
Okay.
So you can't just like cause total chaos by writing whatever you want. But how they're ranked, how SCPs are ranked, is based on how their like ability to escape. So it's not really like how dangerous they are, just how likely they are to escape. So you have safe, which is it'll stay in containment. You would have to let it out, if anything, or take it out even. Um, Euclid, which is like, watch it because it can break out, but as long as you follow procedures, it should be fine. Peter is, if it feels like breaking out, it probably will. And then uncontainable is like how I said there was one that's a whole ass plague. You can't really just put that in a chamber and study it, or like the whole thing at least. You could take an instance of it, but you can't take like a whole plague and just like isolate and everything. So there are a couple of origin stories that I like. One of the ones I like to entertain is this one that basically revolves around document 00105, which basically states that they found one real SCP. It was like, I think, a slope that like looped around without going back up. It was like a geometrical impossibility. And based on the information they got from studying that, they created a ton of other SCPs and just made all this shit up in order to get government funding for their organization so that they could all like make a cushy living pretty easily. Um, but the problem with that one is it does leave it a little ambiguous. That's kind of why I like it, because like they do put a clause at the end where it's like, oh, but some of them have showed up one day and just like kind of acted as if they were there the whole time.
So
So some
like,
there's
just
some
so like
mystery.
they like, were like created like believing that they were real, made them real, maybe.
Yeah, it does leave a little ambiguity, but what the document says is that we made all this shit up and we like built these things, but some of them appeared as if they were there the whole time, but no one made them.
So basically, like taking a real world example, if we were to suddenly find Mothman, would he
Okay.
be an SCP?
I think so because there would be no real explanation on why something like that would have evolved and why something like that would be able to fly with the amount of weight it must have. So there would probably be some impossibilities that would classify it as an SCP because an SCP is an anomaly, which basically just means that it shouldn't work.
Okay.
And then there's Tufto's proposal, which is another SCP-001 because some people say it's because they want to hide the real 001, so they made a ton of them. Because obviously it's supposed to be like a super secretive organization. So that's one of the explanations to why there's so many 001s.
So wait,
And one of them,
what's the picture of then right there?
oh, I'll get to that. So Tufto's proposal is an SCP-001. It's the Scarlet King. He's basically a multidimensional god who could have created multiple SCPs, including 682, which is the hard to destroy reptile shown here. Which means I'm just trying to strengthen my point from the other slide that sometimes you do have to pick and choose what you want. Like if you're making an SCP gamer story, you have to choose one of these because you see, if they made all the SCPs and some of them are just mysteriously appearing, like the Foundation is the cause of all the SCPs, would lead to SCP-682 being made. But if the Scarlet King story follows through and he created 682, then you see the problem? They both created 682. How and why? That doesn't make sense. So you would have to probably pick one. You probably wouldn't be able to make a story where both of these were simultaneously true.
Okay.
Now, I have the factions. These are just the big ones. So the Foundation is like the main thing. They keep them, they study them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so Class D are death row test subjects. They're inmates that were given another option instead of death. They were very vague about it because obviously no one would willingly want to be tested with SCPs. And when people make a game or any kind of content like this, is usually the playable character is a D class like person. Scientists are like, it's like just the scientists of the organization. They do the research and everything, but it does have plenty of interesting characters in it. Like Dr. Bright has this SCP around his neck that like carries his consciousness. So if you put his necklace on someone else, they effectively die and their body is just used as a vessel of Dr. Bright.
Shit.
And then if you take his necklace off of that person, the body just falls over because the original person who lived in it, their consciousness is gone. And Dr. Bright's not in it anymore.
Like,
So
is the body still living, or is the mind just Or is it
what
like actually
happens
dead?
is if you put on his necklace, his consciousness effectively replaces yours. So you effectively die. And then once he takes off the necklace to put it on another body, or like someone takes it off to put it on another body, that's when your body becomes like physically dead.
Oh.
But you don't really exist anymore. Like the concept of you, your consciousness, is gone the moment that gets put on. You're replaced by him. So the scientists are pretty interesting.
Okay.
The MTF, they're kind of like their military squadrons that like if something breaks out or if if an SCP is reported out in the like wilderness, like an anomaly that needs to be investigated, these guys get sent out. They have like cadets, lieutenants, commanders. It's like a standard like kind of hierarchy. And there are specific like squadrons that have their own stories tied to them and lore, but generally the MTF are just working for the SCP Foundation. They're the armed guard and the armed like military personnel
Okay.
because it is like a government orgo. Um, O5 Council, they're like they sit at the top. I think there's like 13 of them or something,
But why is there
and
5?
they call the shots. I don't know. That is maybe it's because they're like the fifth rank up. Maybe I missed a step.
Okay.
I think I might have missed a step in the hierarchy. They might be the fifth up, or it might just be like
But there are 5.
something else. But they're O5, and what they do is they're basically like big mysterious people in charge. So like if we go back to document 001, 05, where they admit everything's fake, you only see that if you are replacing a dead member of the O5. If you are incumbent of like the top dogs, that's the only time you will ever see this document claiming they made all of it up. Which who even knows if that's I mean, I guess they could simultaneously both exist because one of them could be just like a document existing trying to throw people off from the truth of the other one. That like this is a very ambiguous lore where like you really do have to pick and choose what you believe. Oh whoa.
What's happening there?
I was going ahead. This is the foundation. That's pretty much all of them. Then you have these characters, the other factions, the Chaos Insurgency. They are pretty much being mind controlled by a big toaster or something, and they are just Team Rocket wannabes. They want to take the SCPs. I don't know why. I'm not familiar with them outside of them appearing in one of the games I play, but I do know they're like a hive mind connected to like this big fucking toaster thing, and like they wear gas masks. They'll breach in, especially. They'll usually wait for like SCPs to break out themselves so that they're at a vulnerable state, and then they'll show up and try to like steal shit.
So they
Um,
are just Team Rocket wannabes.
yeah, I don't know what they want with the SCPs. I think they want them for like the powerful ones because there's like these canines, right? They're called SCP-939. There's a few instances of it. It's a canine species. It's I think blind. It senses movement, and their bites give you like they're like an amnesia type effect if they bite you. So they did steal one of those before. I know that. So they probably just want them for their powers. Chaos Insurgency. There are also stories about the Chaos Insurgency finding their own anomalies, like before the Foundation got to it. So there are some things they have. I can't remember specific examples, but they do have some anomalies that don't have an SCP number because they found it first and they don't use a numbering system.
Do they have like a
Um,
system, or do they just?
I think they just get named like as
Uh,
objects or beings or whatever they are. And then closely related but different, Serpent's Hand. They're basically a bunch of hippies who think for some reason that humans can coexist with SCPs and that they need to be freed. Now, when I go through the cult classic characters, like the cult classic SCPs, you're gonna quickly realize these guys are probably wrong, but that's what they think. And I think they usually wait for the Foundation to be vulnerable too.
just like, just like peace lovers during World War II.
Exactly. They are just SCPs versus hippies. And the Foundation has multiple locations, by the way. So it's not like these guys are all squatting one building waiting for shit to go wrong.
Like they're
Because
like
the
so
Foundation.
basically they're like that one faction of the French that wanted to like coexist with Germany during World War II.
Exactly. It's just incompatible. It's just like, no, don't keep them away. We could live with them if we just let them out. Probably can't. You probably can't. But they're not all like squatting outside the same building, don't get me wrong. The Foundation has plenty of different facilities and different locations.
Mhm.
So it's not like they're all just like the Spider-Man pointing at each other, realizing they're squatting in the same place.
Right.
Um, then there's the UNGOC, the Global Occult Coalition. Um, it's a UN organization that is allied with the Foundation. So if something goes massively wrong in the MTF, like isn't it, the GOC will like send their guys. So not as interesting as like the enemy
What's
faction.
with that lizard people anecdote?
Just like it's just a jab at the UN, just a jab at world leaders. Like
Oh, okay.
they're lizard people, haha. Um, Church of the Broken God. This is another one that I really like. They're big antagonists and they're pretty mysterious. They believe in this thing called the Broken God, and she does exist. She has her own character stories that I haven't caught up on at this point, but they're basically a cyborg cult, and they believe that machine is superior to having human flesh.
Okay.
And I think they beef with the Foundation for specific anomalies relating to their goal, like that would help them reach it. Um, the cult classic characters. This is 999. It's a friendly pile of slime, and that's about it. But
Ditto.
lots of people love it. Why? Have you seen this before?
I'm just it's like Ditto from Pokemon.
Oh, he kind of is. He looks like he except orange. And then this is the one that got redesigned. It's like a weeping angel. It's the original one that someone wrote in. So it's in pretty much all the games. So whole concept, look away from it. It'll come at you, try to snap your neck. As long as you're looking at it, you're fine.
So like that's like the first SCP that got popular.
I think it's the first one that got written too.
Oh.
And so most games do have a blinking function so that it has a chance to get closer and closer and closer. And that's basically how he works. And like they have like these whole detailed procedures, right? So this thing like secretes like an unknown substance all over the floor, but they can't have that for research reasons. So people have to go in and clean it. But they could have at minimum 3, and they have to announce when they're blinking. So there's like safety protocols for all of them. And then this guy is the polar opposite. I blocked out his face in the title slide as a joke to his gimmick. You look at him, even a picture of him, and he basically has any super ability you think of: speed, strength, jumping, anything. He will break out of wherever he is. He will chase you to the ends of the earth, and he will rip you to shreds if you look at his face. So the containment procedure for him is basically metal box. The reason they know what he looks like is because they had a D class someone took a picture of him without looking, like different pictures. Then they went on a submarine in the middle of the ocean, like halfway across the world, so it would take a while for him to get there. They didn't tell the D class what he was doing, but he had a background in art. So they gave him the pictures and they said, draw this for us, and then you're done. So he drew it. The submarine got breached and the guy was killed. The art survived, and that's pretty much how they got the picture of his figure. Because it has to be a real picture of his face. Now, there is like a lot of termination lore. So like someone in the Foundation will probably have an opinion different from the upper people, the O5 Council, to be like, yikes, this thing, I want it terminated, right?
Right.
But the higher ups didn't have reason to kill him at the moment because there were no pictures around, nothing. Nothing could go wrong at the moment. So what this guy did, I forget his name. I think he was one of the scientists.
Mm-hmm.
He created this quote unquote scrambling machine that would scramble up a pic like his face whenever you saw it, so that he could get him to break out. And then when the MTF took it with the scrambling things on, they'd still die because obviously it's still his face just mushed around.
Right.
But this incident of him killing all these people would persuade them in the higher council to get him terminated. Now he got caught doing this after like all the like his plan went through and they died fighting it, but he kind of did get caught making that faulty thing on purpose. So there was a proposed way to kill him, which was to have this guy over here snap his neck, because the hardest part about killing him is that his bones are unbreakable, and that's almost unbreakable, and that's pretty much the whole thing. Like, that's pretty much where all his strength comes from. Say, he has unbreakable bone structure, so he, right here, would hypothetically have him look away, snap his neck, they'd take him out, and they would dump very, like, corrosive acid into the wound to melt the bone structure. I don't think they went through with it. I'm not sure. I believe not. In most stories, he's still alive. So I'm gonna go with no. And then moving on to the Plague Doctor. He's another cult classic. 049. Oh, by the way, 173, 096. This is 049.
Are they like numbered in order of when they were discovered?
I don't think so. I think it was just kind of like, oh, actually, it might be in order of when they were discovered in lore, but definitely not when they were written.
Yeah, no, that's what I was talking about.
I think it might be when they were discovered in lore. That would make sense to me. His whole deal is that he can speak fluent English and French. He just showed up one day. They found him walking about. He believes everyone is infested with this plague. They've asked him pretty much every endemic and epidemic and pandemic in history, and he says, no, that's not the plague I'm talking about. Can't you see it? It's potent in all of you. And so it's not Ebola. It's not like anything like that, or like malaria. He's talking about something completely different.
Let's talk about
He wants-
COVID-19.
Oh my god, SCP was made in the future. So he's like, I need to cure you by touching you. And when he touches you, you die. So he has a death touch, but he believes that his touch is the cure. That's the whole problem with him. So his containment procedure is pretty much handcuffs. Handcuffs in a cell. But like those handcuffs that like cover the whole thing, like, you know, those cylinder ones?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So,
What were you gonna ask?
basically, is the disease just life?
I have a theory as to what it is, but I'm probably wrong, and I'll explain
Is
that
it
all
the
later.
Star Wars midichlorians?
I don't know. I don't think there's a story that even like a I don't think there's a story that blatantly ever reveals what he's talking about, but I have an idea.
Okay.
This is 682, the hard to destroy reptile, and with him, I want to get more in depth with termination reports, because I'm going to use him as an example of just how far people will go to make this universe. So keep him in mind.
Mm-hmm.
He was like the one that was pretty much the son of the Scarlet King. He's like crazy. He hates humanity. He can talk. And he always talks about how much humanity is like a disgusting, awful thing. He enjoys eating and killing people. So keep him in mind. Then this is the old man. He's another cult classic. 106. He'll drag you to his pocket dimension and just torment you forever. And then if he'll either kill you or get bored of you and let you go. But he will usually repeat the same victim multiple times. So if he lets you go, he's probably not done with you. Now, he's attracted to pain. So basically, he could break out whenever he wants. There's like things you can do to minimize it. Like he can't really he could go through walls, but it takes him really long to get through lead. It like resists him. So he's in like a pure lead box. And to lure him back in, they will take a D class, probably a sick or dying one, put it in this thing called the femur breaker, and blast the screams of someone's femur being broken throughout the entire range of wherever he could be,
Jeez.
so that he will return to the sound of pain. And then there are like cross-testing incidents. Like there was one where he fought him, and I think in that story is one of the few where he actually like 106. I'm gonna iterate their numbers, because this is about absorbing information. 106 fought 096, and I think that's one of the few stories where 096 actually died.
Does he like come back to life or something?
I'm not sure because again, if you put all the stories together, they're not gonna make sense. But
Okay.
in that case, he actually did, I think, die. I think this was like the one few bad matchups for him, besides 173.
Oh.
Now, I'll get into a lot of cross testing and like, I just wanted to use this slide to kind of introduce you to like the characters that like you're probably gonna see all across the internet. If you like pay attention to like SCP after this, you would probably notice that they're out and about all over the internet. And like, I also wanted to introduce you cross-testing SCPs. Where like having them interact with each other. Like there's a little cat SCP, a little cat alien that will stare at him because they kind of have this instinct that tells them that he's a danger. So they will look at him for you. Yeah, really cool things like that, and then like the whole concept of like terminating. Because I want to talk about 682 as an example of how far people will go. At least they tried. This is a compilation of my favorite ways they tried to kill SCP-682. If you look on the side, you will see the termination log for 682. This is the bar to scroll down.
What?
And this would be the whole log. Like, the document of all the attempts to kill him,
Okay.
682.
Huh?
This is the progress bar that you would have to scroll all the way down. That's how small it is.
Why is there a baby? And what's with God?
I'll get to it. So, he pretty much adapts to anything you try to do to him. He will either survive it or survive with an adaptation. So pretty much everything they've tried to throw at him, he has bested. They tried to have him fight him. So what they did was 173 was introduced to 682. 682 was smart enough to stare at him, so they slashed his eyes. He got fucked up a little bit, but almost instantaneously grew more eyes around his body to continue looking at 173. Next up, they were scared to nuke him because if it didn't work, they would have a whole nother level of monster on their hands. So the O5 denied access to nuking him. There was a point where this guy and another SCP, like 106, escaped, and this other SCP, which is just a psychic fox, escaped. That's not really important. But the point is, 106 dragged 682, the lizard, to his pocket dimension and tried to torment them. Eventually, they all came out with like battle scars and everything, and 106 was the first one to leave when they came back. He was the first one to say, "Nope, I want nothing to do with you two," and left. They tried to have him look. They like threw him in a room with 096 because of course he could fuck him up. He was probably at like 25% body mass and healing when they found them. He was clawing his face in the corner, and he proceeded to have pretty much a panic attack. I'm talking about 096 now. So like he was just recovering, like 682, and then 096 was like clawing at himself, screaming, and then every time he saw 682 in the future, he would start just having a meltdown. So he was scared of him. The thing that could like kill anyone was scared of him. Moving on, they had this SCP that was pretty much a toddler, and she would turn anyone who she stayed with for too long into a homicidal maniac who would then try to kill her and have a heart attack. Why did they think that they should give the over-aggressive lizard the baby that could turn anyone into a homicidal maniac? I don't know, but they introduced them to each other, and they both got along. And he let the baby... Hold on. And he proceeded to let the baby draw on his scales.
What?
And then he only got mad after they took the baby away from him.
What?
Yes, the lizard that hates humanity got mad because they took a baby that turns everyone into a homicidal maniac. Why does this synergy happen? Why does this reaction happen when it's out of the ordinary for both of them? I don't know, but it gave them the idea to introduce him to a normal human toddler. I don't want to talk about it because it ended how you think it would.
Uh,
Then there's one SCP that pretty much just fits the description of the biblical God, and he said, "I can't deal with that. That's not my creation," and refused to deal with 682.
wait, can we hear more? Can I hear more about the biblical God?
So he's basically an SCP that's just a biblical god, and I'm pretty sure they don't even need to try to contain him. He just chills around, and he just fits the description. He's magical and everything. And so they told him, "Hey, could you like destroy this like evil lizard for us?" And he was like, "I cannot deal with that, for it is not of my creation."
Cool.
And then there was this guy, the plague doctor. He said, "I have never seen the pestilence in such disgusting potency, as in he is like the most infected out of anything he's ever seen." And he refused to deal with 6A2 in any way, shape, or form. There was also like this thing, this deity that you could ask to do anything for you at like a pretty hefty price, but he'll usually give you the offer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, "Hey, what would we need to sacrifice for you to take care of that lizard?" And he just said, "You can't afford it."
Oh man.
So that's just how dedicated people will be. There's cross testing between a lot of characters, and there's big in-depth like stories, and that's why I wanted to get at with this example. And then so I've introduced a bunch of cool classic stories and like how the dedication to like the things work. Now I want to talk about probably my favorite story within it, because people write stories that involve a ton of the characters, right? So this is SCP-5000Y. You could find tons of good narrations on it. Zach actually told me about this story. Um, Now it is a story where like upon one of the foundations, or one of the foundations like locations, mech like landed upon them, and in the files, there was pretty much recollections of a whole story in an alternate universe where the Foundation turned evil. They let everything go to cause mass destruction. I mean, the MTF came in, they sent the MTF into the Foundations to kill as many of the personnel as possible, their own guys. And someone who like someone who dodged this like massacre, put on this mech suit and pretty much got instructions to bring an unexplained SCP called 055 to this like terminal point, which would fix everything supposedly. Now, what was the problem? The problem was the O5 Council had discovered this like entity that was like another dimensional entity that was embedded in all humans that gave us our emotion, but it was slowly leading us to our demise. And it was a demise so awful that they said at the end, there's an audio recording of one of the guys saying, "I never thought I'd find myself agreeing with the damn lizard," which is why
Wow.
he's on this slide. As in, like, he despises humanity as much as the lizard does now. That was his whole point. And pretty much, yeah, so what gives us our emotions was pretty much leading us to our ultimate demise. So the O5 Council set out all the SCPs just to fucking kill as many people as possible. And they were dedicated. They took a picture of 096 and circulated it throughout all social media. Like, that level of dedication. Which 096 is the face one. Like, don't look at his face, or
Right.
he will go to the ends of the world to kill you. They took a pic of him, circulated it throughout all of social media. They wanted every human being besides themselves dead, because they were able to cure themselves, but the cure must have been limited supply, because instead of curing everyone else, they decided to kill everyone else. So they were all emotionless husks with like just the goal of killing people. Now, Dr. Bright, the guy I mentioned before with the necklace, he did actually make a cameo in the story, but I don't remember it being too important. Now, the reason I have the doctor here is because how I interpreted the story, at least, was that like maybe what the doctor was talking about was this entity that was embedded in all of us that gave us our emotions. That was what I, at least, like, thought of like out of all this. But it's really just a shocking story. And spoiler alert, I think he does end up making it with the other SCP and getting it in, but I don't know what happens that sends him to the original universe instead of fixing everything. Because it's been a while since I've listened to the story. But there's like cameos from like all of these like scary SCPs that like get mentioned, and he's like sneaking around, cloaking himself with the mech, not getting caught by the surviving personnel that want to kill everyone, not getting caught by like SCPs, traversing through like uncharted wilderness just to not get caught. Seeing marks of scary things like from the Foundation that prove they were nearby. It's an insane story. Um, Honestly, I think whoever wrote that one should go professional. But that's all my examples. I hope I've like made it clear how this kind of lore works and how people build upon it and how people like look at it and consume and create it.
Okay, so
That
there
is my
are like
presentation.
some interconnected things, but basically it's all arbitrary and anything can happen.
It's very loosely all held together. Some parts don't work if you bring them too close to each other, I'd say. But it's
Mhm.
like held together on like a loose strain with like the ends of the strain, all the different ends of the strain being the different stories. And if you just pull two ends, like two specific ends, they get too close, they don't work together, but they all kind of build up this one big universe, but certain parts of it don't make sense together. It's very weird. And I think there is like a multiverse factor which might help, but I have a hard time grasping it.
I'm gonna go with any of these, which recently need to redesign due to 173. There we go. True or false? Containment class describes an entity's danger level as well as its ability to escape. True. True or false? If you put every single SB story ever written together, it would not all make sense as one. True. This fiction believes in superiority of machine over man. Church of Broken Hand. The class in the Foundation that is most likely to be the playable character in the video game is... Alright, Class D. This faction can be described as hive mind controlled by some toasters. Chaos Insurgency. Uh, True false, there is only one entry of SCP. Zero, false. Out of the following, which SCP is friendly? I, this SCP will hunt you to the end of the. This SCP will hunt you to the ends of the earth if you see its face. Right? Out of the following, which SCP has fought the other three options and never lost? Yep. The following SCPs refuse to work with the hard to destroy reptile. Both these. This SCP is a mech suit that holds the story of an alternate universe. 5,000. No. Maybe. Yeah. Alright, view score. I got 40 out of... Yeah, I got... well, I missed 2 questions. That works for me.
Yeah, that's chill. That's chill. I like that.
Alright, that works. So, basically, what was the percent of that? What? We're gonna figure out who wins this by the percent score.
Okay.
Alright.
40 over 48. That is 83.
That's 83%?
Yes.
Okay, so... So basically that reflects on you. You got 83 on your thing.
We didn't get
Alright, we'll be back for the next episode where I explain Destiny Lord Nick. Thank you for watching.
Yeah. Wonderful.